the body of Jasmine Gamble laid on the deck of the wretched wench. 10 minutes earlier, she'd been killed by the party. As Ren Madarasi tossed the body overboard, he knew trouble was brewing. It took a long time for him to fall asleep. When his eyes finally closed, he opened them to a vision of the black depths of the ocean. A monster floated in front of him, a pale mass of tentacles stained with blood. The Queen of the Depths. "What have you done?" the Queen spat. I can explain. I didn't intend to— Silence! Do you understand our arrangement, Ren Madarasi? Do you understand what will happen if you continue to disobey me? I know, but evidently you do not. So allow me to produce an example. The Queen's tentacles reached down and pulled up something that had sank to the bottom of the depths. A month-old corpse, preserved by the salt, its skin discolored, its eyes empty. The body of Elbin Bootwater. If you defy me again, I will kill your sister. That is where we stand. Okay, I understand. Gamble's death is a major setback. However, my plans have not been completely derailed. You and Ravage may still be able to put things back on track with a little legwork. I trust you will do what you must. I will. Good. Now then, leave this place. There is another I must speak with. Ren looked to his side at his new crew member, Armick Coldstone, floating beside him. Armick gave a half-hearted wave. So, you are the one who killed Jasmine Gamble? It was an accident, ma'am. Also, she was holding a young woman hostage, and I didn't think that was the right thing to do. I see. Who are you? I'm a priest, ma'am, serving Astitia, god of the ocean. I met your god once, a long time ago. He turned me into what I am now. Astitia and the others gave me this form, and tasked me with protecting these seas. Despite what your captain may think, I am not a heartless witch. I am simply a servant of the gods, protecting Astitia's ocean from a far greater monster. Perhaps you, priests of the sea, can find common ground with the Queen of the Depths. I appreciate the offer, but I already serve a master, ma'am. Meanwhile, Pace was cuddling in a hammock with Lady Umbra. So, what's your deal? Pace asked. I am a loyal servant of the Queen of the Depths. She's not allowed to venture out of the sea, so in those situations, she uses me as a representative. Neat. Have you been doing this for long? Not too long, but my work has been exemplary in that time. And before that? There is no before. I was created from the dark waters of the ocean to be my master's blade. Before that, I was nothing. Oh, that's weird. Perhaps. What of you? Oh, nothing special. Was a soldier, participated in a mutiny, found out what the Royal Navy does to mutineers, and now I work as a mercenary. Are you worried about returning to the Royal Navy's main base? I hadn't thought about that. It's probably gonna suck. The boat docked at the side of a massive iceberg, stretching across hundreds of miles of ocean. A sprawling city covered the coast of the iceberg, the largest city in the flooded world. At the center of the iceberg sat Rubicon Tower, which had long since been converted to a royal palace. Captain James was waiting for the party as they stepped off their boat. "Welcome, heroes," he said. "I am glad you were able to find time in your busy adventuring schedule to come to the royal ball. Something big is happening tonight, something that could not have happened without you, and I want you to be there to see it." James led them to the royal palace. A half-completed statue of Julius, the crown prince slain by Quincy Mortimer, sat in front. Surrounding the tower was a magical barrier. James held out a ring and the barrier briefly opened, allowing the party to walk inside. The party had a few hours to kill before the ball began, so James suggested they clear out the Rubicon dungeon. The murals showed the story of a boy. In one, he stood at the edge of a golden palace. In the next, he spoke with a large stone statue. In the third, a dozen shadowy figures wearing white masks, each the size of a building, stared down at the boy. In the final mural, the boy held out a raised hand surrounded by rainbow fire. I don't actually remember what 3 of those murals meant, because it's been several years and I used to be bad at writing things down, but I remember what the statue one meant. In the center of the dungeon sat a giant stone head. The party examined it, and the statue opened its eyes. "Who dares awaken Zardoz the Wise?" it shouted. "Hello, how do solve dungeon?" "Why do you wish to venture beyond the traps filling this labyrinth?" "Because the chest at the end has money, dickface. Also, opening a portal network and bringing the world together." "Yeah, sure, whatever." Zardoz told the party riddles to help them solve the dungeon, although the riddles were maybe a little less than helpful. For example, he asked, what goes on 4 feet in the morning, 2 feet in midday, and 3 feet in the evening? The party said man, and he said, "Wrong! It is Borbos the Shapeshifter!" And then a big monster showed up and attacked them. Sean decided to ensure Zardoz gave them actually useful information. He walked up, pulled out the jar of bees, and threatened to stick it into Zardoz's mouth. "Okay, geez, I'll stop being cryptic. Actually, tell you what, I, with immense knowledge, can answer any question. I will answer 3 questions, and only 3. Choose your questions wisely." Now, giving something like this to your players has the possibility to completely derail a campaign. But that isn't really a bad thing. Besides, things can only go wrong if the players ask the right questions. Pace walked up and asked her question. "How do I make Lady Umbra like me?" "Oh, geez, I thought you'd, ask about the nature of reality and stuff. This question is actually harder to answer than those questions. Be nice to her? She's a sweet girl who just wants someone to care for her. That'll probably work." James stepped up next. "How can I keep the IRC free from pirates?" he asked. "Through fire," the Stonehead replied. Ren took the last question. "Who is the Depths Queen?" Zardoz and the DM who controlled him thought carefully about how to best answer this question. After a moment of contemplation, I settled on one simple sentence. "The Depths Queen is a foolish girl who pulled a sword out from the bottom of a well." When you DM, it's good to set up and foreshadow plot twists. You shouldn't plan out the whole campaign, but you should have some idea what's going to happen and help set the groundwork for future reveals. You should give your players breadcrumbs. It's fun to watch them try to slot the puzzle pieces together, see how a new piece of information changes their assumptions. And the main reason you create mysteries is because that moment where it all clicks, where they finally put it together and you hear the shock in their voice, it's the reason you DM. When Zardoz said what he said, the party thought back to the 3rd dungeon, to the murals, which showed a woman pulling a sword out of the bottom of a well, which showed tentacles bursting from her back as she was transformed into a monster. And in that moment, they realized what the murals were. Not just vague hints towards dungeon puzzles, but parts of a story, parts of the same story. The story of the end of the world. "What was that sword? What turned her into a monster?" Ren cried. "I'm afraid you are out of questions," Zardoz replied. The Stonehead closed its eyes, never again to talk to the party. Their heads swirling, the party killed the Coatl in the boss room. James offered his blood to the brazier, the party lit the torch, and they stepped out of the dungeon. The party headed back to their ship to rest before the ball. As they walked away, they were stopped by a high-ranking Navy official, a guy named Vice Admiral Dick, who chastised James for wanting to connect Rubicon Tower to the portal network. James argued that doing so would allow the Navy to quickly reach anywhere they needed to be to help people. Dick pointed out that opening a portal on top of their heavily guarded military base was idiotic. After all, the seas were filled with pirates. The only thing keeping Her Majesty safe was the barrier, and creating a way to bypass it was foolish. Begrudgingly, James extinguished the torch and handed it back to Ren. After buying fancy clothes, the party returned to the tower, ready to spend a peaceful evening partying. The ball was held in a massive throne room and was overflowing with military officials and wealthy nobles. Iroh and Armik walked around, making small talk, while Pace stood in the corner, her arms crossed. Sham, being dictionary definition chaotic neutral, walked up to Vice Admiral Dick and used suggestion to force him to do Fortnite dances. Meanwhile, Kit watched as her adoptive kobold children, snuck in via bag of holding, pickpocketed all of the rich people. She had never felt so proud. The nobles all stood at attention as the queen entered the throne room. She was an old woman, or at the very least, she looked old. She gave a weak wave as her servants helped her to her throne. One handed her a thaumaturgy enchanted stone, which happened to be shaped like a ball attached to a cylinder. "This has been a mixed year for the Rubicon territory," she said in a raspy voice. "There have been victories. We have expanded our forces greatly, adding 4 new towers to our kingdom, with talks in place to add Mercury and Tesla to our ranks in coming months. Perhaps we may even regain Alcazar, eventually. But this year we also suffered great tragedy. My dear son, Prince Julius, died valiantly in the fight against Quincy Mortimer. Through his sacrifice, that scourge was slain, and yet the pain still remains. My throne is without an heir. Our goal going forward is simple. We will destroy the pirate menace through any means necessary and restore order to these seas." Her knights raised their swords. "All hail Queen Julia! All hail Queen Julia!" they chanted. Hey, remember what I said about players figuring things out? At that moment, the party remembered the letter Kit had stolen for James. "Oh shit! Julia is James's mom!" "Actually, I would not have shown you that letter, so you do not know that." "Oh shit! Julia is James's mom!" Ren was not there for Julia's speech. The moment the ball began, he snuck away, heading for more private parts of the tower, following orders from the Depths Queen. The original plan the Pirate Lords devised was for Gamble to disguise herself as Nyla Chicane, be brought to the ball by the party, and then do her part of the plan once inside. This would have increased the party's status as heroes within the Navy, while allowing Gamble to handle the complicated parts. But since Gamble was currently a corpse floating somewhere near Galilee, her role in the scheme fell to Ren. Also, if you were curious, the party left Nylo in a rowboat in the middle of the ocean after making her promise to keep quiet about everything they did to her. It would have been cool to have Nylo show up again for revenge eventually, but I forgot to do that because I am a hack and a fraud. Anyway, Ren snuck into a luxurious bathroom in the Queen's quarters, filled up a bathtub, and spoke an incantation, summoning Lady Umbra. "Hey Ren, how's it going? I was told to summon you. What now?" "Straight to business, it seems." "Okay." "Our objective lies in the highest part of this tower, in the heart of the military offices." Ren cast Pass Without a Trace on himself so he could sneak up without being seen. He offered it to Lady Umbra, but she declined. "My magic cloak provides enough stealth on its own. People rarely see the shadows for what they are." At the top of the tower, Ren and Lady Umbra found a strange device resembling a radar dish, with a golden crystal in its center. Ren asked what it was, and Lady Umbra said it was their target. The two of them brought their swords down on the crystal, shattering it. In an instant, the barrier around the tower disappeared. Ren stared off the edge of the tower, deep in thought. "Captain Madarasi, can I ask you something? Why are you doing this? I mean, the other pirate lords I met like being pirates. They like doing this, but you seem sad." "I hate this. Every minute of it. But the Depths Queen has my sister hostage. I have to do what she says." "I see. You're a good brother, Ren. By the way, do you know if Pace is at the party? I kind of want to talk to her after I'm done with work." Let's jump back 10 minutes. Back in the throne room, the party watched as a new guest arrived. A man in flaming robes, with sunglasses and a goatee. Guy Fiery, their old enemy. Recently revived from self-immolation. The knights pointed spears at Fiery, but let him enter after he showed official paperwork. The party marched up to the Flavor Master. "So, are you here to kill us, or the Queen, or do some other evil thing?" "Kill you? Oh, don't worry. I have no intention of harming any of you." "Really? Because you got all pissy after I became ruler of Flavon Tower." "Water under the bridge, Catherine. Besides, it's not like you're really in charge of the tower." "Explain." "I mean, you won our little contest, but you left immediately and haven't been back in months. The town elders impeached you and handed the town back to my church, and once I was set free and placed in charge, I handed it, Kermis, and any claims we had towards Gunsmoke over to the Royal Navy. So technically, that queen over there is in charge. You're working with the Royal Navy now? It was a far simpler way to go about things. Marcus's petty squabbles with the Navy accomplished nothing. Besides, we share a common enemy. The Depths Queen and her minions." "Uh-huh," Armick said. Guy Fiery smiled. "It seems you have a new friend. What's your name, Short Stack?" "I'm Armick Coldstone, servant of Astitia." "Oof! Have fun with the disappointment, buddy." "What's that supposed to mean?" There's a reason churches haven't been too popular in these seas ever since the Great Flood washed across the land. The gods saved us from the Great Flood by building these towers. Sure, but who do you think created the Great Flood? Besides, that wasn't what I was getting at. Faith in your pantheon is declining because people are wising up to the fact that this world is irreparably broken, that their prayers are not being answered, because the gods just don't give a shit. I've felt the grace of Astitia. I've used his gifts to protect my friends. I mean, he has a point though. Back on that island, I spent years studying the fundamental magic of this world. The gods aren't out there. I don't know if they're dead or if they never existed, but they aren't out there. Oh, the gods are very real. They just don't care. Bunch of pricks, not gonna lie. Armik walked away, bothered by Fiery's mocking. He decided to do a quick prayer, requesting guidance. Your prayer is very important to us, a pre-recorded voice said in his head. Please stay on the line. Armik sat there, listening to hold music. Ren returned from his Wetwork and joined the party's conversation with Fiery. Captain! How's your sister doing? Fiery said, smiling. What do you want? Nothing! By the way, great job scamming your way in here. The Royal Navy would be shocked if they knew the stuff Jimmy's pals have been up to. Sean and Kit reach for their blades. Easy! I'm not gonna spill your little secret. That'd ruin the fun of our little rivalry. Besides, I have a feeling you aren't really gonna go through with Odette's schemes. Odette? Big ugly squid monster? Talks like this? Oh right, she doesn't go by her real name anymore. She calls herself the Depths Queen! You know the Depths Queen. Ah, we go way back. Wanna know what else I know? Your sister went missing right around the time that prick Mortimer kicked the bucket. And right around then is when you started killing Valentines. Now, if I was a betting man, I'd say that Odette was using your sis as a bargaining chip. Ren said nothing. Which is stupid, Fiery continued. Because if you were smart, you would realize that the Depths Queen probably already killed your sister and is just stringing you along. Something to think about, Captain. Right then, Captain James approached the throne. Your Majesty, earlier you stated that you do not have an heir due to Julius's passing. But I have something to show you. There is no need for that, Captain. A letter you wrote years ago. James read the stolen letter, the one where Queen Julia referred to him as her son. The Queen stared at James with her toughest poker face. Nobles and military officials watched with intrigue. Mother, please. Julia was not given a chance to respond, because at that very moment, Butcher Ravage kicked open the door to the ball. He swung his axe, firing a burst of energy that tore through the air. A slash that flew over the crowd, up to the stage where the Queen stood, through the neck of her Royal Highness. The Queen's body fell over as the crowd screamed, and Ren realized that he had made a very, very bad mistake.